Hi, I'm Brian Eckert. This is my Cornell Master Beekeeper virtual field exam inspection. Today is Sunday, August 16th. It's about 2-3 in the afternoon. A little overcast but nice, about 75 degrees, so that's a good day to check this out. We're in my apiary in my backyard. I only have a few colonies. A couple things that I like about it. One is this used to be a Christmas tree farm, so this provides a really good windbreak during the winter. The other thing I really like is that we're situated in the middle of two fruit and vegetable farms that span a couple miles in each direction. So they have access to a lot of that, but also the fields, when not in use, they allow to plant clover, white and red clover, mustard, and then there's tons of native plants available as well. We're only about 2 miles away from Lake Champlain in an area called Malletts Bay. So they have wetland around here too, so they have access to water. Plus I have a couple of small ponds on my property. A couple things I don't like. One is, as much as this side of the trees is great, if you look over here, that side faces south, and so it blocks the sun, particularly in the winter, so they get limited access to sunlight during the winter. And that's not the greatest thing, but it is what it is. The second thing really that I don't like is that I rent this property and I share it as a part of a duplex with another tenant. So I don't really have the freedom to space them out as much as I would really like to. So they are kind of clustered closer together. I've tried to point them in different directions and paint them different colors with different markings to limit drift. That's all part of my IPM plan, which I'll go over a little bit later. All right, so let's go over here. The colony that we're inspecting today is it's the oldest one, and it was a nucleus colony last year, and it overwintered, and it did really well this year, so much so that I did a split a few weeks ago, and there were so many in there that I was able to do 2 splits off of it, which are a couple of these. I always get my bees from a Vermont apiary, and the queen is hygienic, a VSH, very sensitive hygienic, and they're really gentle. I really like them a lot. So that's what we're inspecting today. I did do a split a few weeks ago, like I said. I put a deep of frames with just foundation in them. I didn't really have any extra drawn out comb after I did the 2 splits. And then the 2 supers that are on top here were there before the split. And there was a few others that were fully capped. These were not fully capped. The top one had a little bit of open honey in it, and the bottom one actually had a little bit of brood in it. So I figured I'd leave them in there, and hopefully it would finish them off. So whenever I look at the outside during the inspection, I do a quick scan and I look for fecal matter first. I had a colony with dysentery in the past, and so I'm kind of looking out for that, which I don't see. Some of the markings here were from years ago. I look at the amount of bees on the board and how many are coming in and out. So we have some foragers coming in and out. I don't offhand see any pollen on their legs, but the foragers could be bringing in pollen, nectar, water, resin. This is another good thing about these trees, is that they have a lot of resin that they could use for propolis, and there could also be scouts, although it's a little late in the season for any swarms. So other things that I look for that would be concerning would be any dead bees outside, whether they're Depending on what color they are and what kind of condition they're in, it could be viral, it could be a virus, it could be a pesticide, it could be some sort of a parasite, it could be robbing. So I would have to inspect a little bit further, depending on what I saw here. I don't see anything, which is good. I do use a drone brood frame inside, which I will pull out and freeze when it gets capped, and then put it back in, and the hygienic bees will pull the dead bees out and put them out here. But I don't see any of that right now. Yeah, so I think what my expectations are, I'm hoping that they'll have worked on the foundation on this brood box, and hopefully they capped out the honey that was up top. I'd like to remove that and just like prepare them for the winter. There is a nectar flow going right now. Goldenrod started about a week or so ago. There's also aster, knotweed, white and red clover are still going. So there's a lot of stuff out there for them to access, and I smell it a lot too. The goldenrod is pretty strong, so I can tell that there's definitely a flow happening. So with that respect, I'm also expecting to see a lot of honey build up. Capped honey should be in the outside frames. There should be some capped honey, pollen, and nectar surrounding all the brood cells too. So let's get in. You can, I'll switch you sides actually. So typically with my smoker, I like to use burlap. It burns cool and really long. It doesn't use up a lot, and I have access to it from a couple different coffee roasters around here. Usually I'll just give a little bit of a puff. There's also usually there's some guard bees on the top and bottom here too. That's another bee that would be outside. As a matter of fact, that's one right there. So anyways, I'll give a little bit of a puff in both of the entrances. And I'll pop the outer cover off, try to be as gentle as I possibly can. Okay. All right. This is a little more bees than I would have expected up here for finished supers. But typically what I'll do at each level, I'll take a look at the adults, and I'll look for any sort of physical abnormalities or any behavioral abnormalities. What that would be is like any sort of deformed wings. The deformed wing virus is probably one of the most well-known viruses, which I don't see any offhand. I also look for any K-wings, where the wings are split, and that could be an indication of a few different things as well, both viral and parasites. But these all look pretty good. Their temperament is good. So continue on here. So there's a lot of propolis built up here that makes this stick, so I try to be as gentle as I can with it. Okay, well, all right. So this is definitely a lot of bees. If you look overhead, I'm going to come in here a little bit closer. Counting seams to get a sense of how many bees are in here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is very full, which is a little concerning because it tells me that there's something they're doing up here. If this was fully capped, there wouldn't be this many bees up here. So I don't use a queen excluder. Basically, that's just my personal philosophy on it is to provide them as much room as they want to take. So I have to be careful of the queen no matter what. So I'm gonna take a look at the bottom first. Because from up here, it definitely looks like this is all capped honey. All right. Okay. So right off the bat, I see queen cups, and what these are specifically swarm queen cups. I don't think there's any eggs in there. I'm kind of surprised to see these this late in the season. And looking up here further, that definitely looks more like brood comb. This is capped honey here, here, and here, and here. So let me pop these out. So as far as the queen cups, when they're at the bottom there, that's an indication of a swarm cell. If there is an egg in it, it would be called a queen cell or a swarm cell. This is a cup. If there's an egg. If it was in the middle of the frame, that is more of an emergency queen cell, a queen cup, that the workers have put there just in case. And then if it's at the top of the frame, that's more of a supersedure cell where they're ready to remove the queen and replace her. So the only thing I saw was the swarm cell. If it was only one, I wouldn't be super concerned, but the fact that there were several there makes me wonder what's going on here. Alright. So there's definitely larvae in here. There's definitely brood. And there's capped brood right there. Alright, so let's look closely here. Maybe we can find some eggs. Just a quick scan. I don't see the queen anywhere, but let's look here. Okay, so if you look real close down here, this is capped honey. If you zoom in, let's pan this way. Right there are some eggs. And then as we progress over closer this way, you can see the larvae. And they get bigger and bigger until they are capped. And there's only a few capped here. But if we flip this, look at the other side. Go ahead and zoom up in here. So this is very nice looking capped brood. Lots of larvae. So basically, as far as the brood is concerned, what I look for is a uniform pattern, and this is kind of smaller, so maybe I'll look back down in here. Let's go down to the next box. I try to be as gentle as I can when I'm putting the frames back in, so I'm not crushing any of these. Alright, so if we look at over the top again, I see about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full seams, probably a third and a third. So not as many bees down here. I see capped honey most of this except for in here. So I'm going to pull one of these out and see what's happening. That feels light. Oh yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Peek for the queen. This is all full. So again, this is a great brood pattern. Very full, uniform. Same with this side. That center piece right there is probably bees that have emerged, and they're cleaning them out, ready for the queen to lay more eggs. You can kind of see some capped honey here on the outer edges of the brood frame. So as I was saying before, what I look for with doing a kind of a brood health check, I look for a uniform pattern. I look for to make sure there's no sunken cappings or anything. If there was a spotty pattern, almost like a shotgun hit it, more than what this is normal. If there was more of a shotgun pattern here, very random, that could be the sign of a lot of different things, both like diseases, viruses, parasites, a lot of different things. So we'd have to dig a little deeper. But this looks beautiful. As far as the open brood, not the capped brood, I look out for any sort of discoloration. If there's a discoloration, most likely they're dead. And we have to look a little bit closer. So if you look at this, it's nice, pearly white, uniform. That's what we want to see. It goes from young to older in the center, in a nice kind of gradient pattern. So again, any sort of off color, if it's something like a chalky larva, that could be chalk brood. If it's sunken in, it could be a foul brood, either European or American. If it's hard in there and dead, that could be sac brood. So a number of things that we'd have to look closer at, but these actually look great. Just not in the place that I wanted them. Pull one more out over here. More larvae. Really good population. Lots of eggs in this one. There's an emerging bee chewing its way out. Okay, and the next frame there is capped honey. Capped honey and some uncapped honey here at the bottom. Fully capped. Alright, so I'm going to take one peek down here at the new brood chamber, see what's going on there. Alright, so we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe half. So that's a good sign here too. It looks like I'm seeing some fully capped honey in the corners. One thing I'll note is I date all of my frames whenever I put them in. So part of my IPM plan is that I cycle out old comb every so many years. So here's a good example. It looks like they're leaving room for eggs in here. And actually there are eggs in the center. So they're filling in around and leaving room in here for the queen to lay eggs. Here is a drone. They're the males. It's a three caste system of three. The drone, the queen, and the workers. We haven't seen the queen, but the fact that I see a lot of eggs tells me that the queen is present. And so this colony is considered queen ripe. They're very healthy looking. We'll put them away. Try to put them at an angle. Put it back so I'm not crushing these. The other two are female, the queen and the workers. All three of them, here, let's step back out here. All three of them are, you'll have to face me. So all three of them are in the egg stage for 3 days. They're in the larval stage for 6 days, and then it changes depending on which one. Queens, once they're capped, the pupae stage lasts 7 days for a total of 16. And the workers are in for 12 days for a total of 21. The difference between the queen and the workers is that when they decide to make, it's more of an environmental decision. They will give the queen royal jelly exclusively. And they'll give her about 10 times more than the actual workers. So the workers and the drones get switched to bee bread, pollen, nectar after a few days. The drones, when they're capped, they're in for 15 days for a total of 24 days. Okay, so I think this colony is very healthy, lots of brood, huge population of brood, which is appropriate for this time of year. It's mid-August. They're peaking their population right now to prepare for winter. They have a lot of great food sources available, and they're storing them, although things are kind of in different locations that I really wanted, but that's okay. As far as management, they're due for a mite check, so I will do that soon. And I could put a queen excluder in. What I will do is go back in and make sure all the swarm cells are taken out and that there's no eggs in any of them. All it takes is just one, and then they can swarm. Typically, if it was earlier in the year, I would probably definitely split this. That's one way with the swarm cells to manage that. They're ready to swarm, they need more room, so I would split the colony and give more room for both. But in this instance, I think they are okay with the space. I think that new brood box was just not prepared or not ready yet. Let's see. So my Varroa management plan starts with the IPM pyramid. The first part of that is monitoring, and so I think what I like to recommend is that you want to keep an eye on everything throughout the whole year. Even during a winter, on days that it's warm enough, I will just pop the cover open to see if they're alive, if the cluster is in there. I usually leave sugar up top to see if they need that. And then basically from whenever it gets warm enough, April through November, I will do inspections probably every 10 to 14 days, specifically during the summer, definitely more towards the 10 to 14 day range. I do monthly mite checks. I'll do an alcohol wash or a sugar roll. I do have, as far as the cultural methods for the IPM program, I have the queen, all the queens. I put in mated queens for these new splits. They're all VSH, and I have, I also have screened bottom boards in, and I have sticky boards that I can use, but I don't use them for mite counts. But the mites will fall out through there. I also have the drone brood frame that I put in, like I said, and I'll take that out when it's capped and freeze it, put it back in, and the hygienic bees will pull them out. From there, if the mite checks show that they've gone over the threshold, then I will use organic acids. Depending on the time of year, it's either Formic Pro for formic acid, HopGuard, and oxalic acid. I have a vaporizer and I have Roxanne. And so I don't really get into any other chemicals beyond those. Just personal preference. Nutrition wise, we saw the lots of honey, lots of nectar, pollen. I'm sure there's probably more pollen in there where I didn't look, but there's evidence of it, which was good. I like to see a lot of that going into the winter. The nectar and the honey provide carbohydrates for them for energy to do all of their tasks. The pollen is a source of protein that they feed to the brood for growth purposes. And everything looks good in there as far as the nutrition. And let's see, what have I forgotten? The population looks good for this time of year, like I said. They're getting ready for winter, so I wanted to see a good population, a healthy population, lots of food stores. It's still mid-August, so I'll keep an eye on this for the next month to make sure that they are definitely preparing for the winter. If by chance that the mite thresholds are higher than I would like to see, I would use Formic Pro at this point. If they are still high come like October or November when the queen has stopped laying, then I would use an oxalic acid vaporizer. I also, as far as the winter goes, I use a foam board on top. I do a lot of feeding once the goldenrod is done, and I weigh the hives just to make sure that they have enough food going into the winter. So that about wraps it up, I believe. Thank you for watching, and happy beekeeping.